How do you face rejection from top universities?
I think the reason that I'm here is precisely because of I was telling my parents every day I hated this place. I want to move so bad to the US. Like I faced like 15 rejections, a lot of like almost from like Harvard, Berkeley and these schools.
For the people that are dreaming to come here to Oxford, what would be your piece of advice?
Exactly.
We are filming this now on a Thursday at 12:51. Who can do that?
I think being a good person is more important.
Impostor syndrome is one of the words I've been hearing the most while my time in both Cambridge and Oxford. What are your thoughts about it?
So being able to see the twinkle and like stars in the eyes of the students really means a lot to me. I think Oxford has around like 100 scholarships for international students. I was like...
This is my friend Jesita. Jesita is a young Indonesian who combines her devil studies at the University of Oxford with creating truly inspiring content. In this interview, you will discover how she turned failure into opportunity, her incredible journey across Asia and Europe, and what it really takes to turn your dreams into reality. If you're looking for real inspiration, make sure to watch until the end. Her story might just change the way you see your own journey. Let's get started.
I saw you apply so many universities in Europe and America.
Yeah.
How do you face rejection from top universities?
No, I think initially it was not easy because I was also like, I spent a lot of time in trying to apply for these positions, and also I was working when I was doing all these positions, when I was applying, so it was quite hard initially. But then I think the more I think about it, the more I feel like, okay, you just need one acceptance, that's it.
Yeah.
So, of course, initially when I had no acceptance at all, I was I was panicking, and then I see left and right, my friends started to get like letter of offers from the US. I was quite panicking, but then I really try to take some time off, just like off social media, off talking to my friends, and just focus on myself. And then I got the interview from Oxford. So I think it's really just focusing on yourself and not comparing yourself with other people. May sound cliche, but like rejections really do not define you. I think especially for PhD, a lot of it is not because you're not capable to enter these fields or like these universities. It's really because of research fit, and funding, and there's just a lot of like external factors that goes on the list of why you get accepted or not. So I just stopped taking it personally as something that defined me as a person. I think it's just a part of a process, and I was able to accept more the notion of like failure and failing in these instances.
Yeah, it would be very interesting if you could share with people about how you started,
how I started academia,
how you managed to get into Oxford in the end, like sharing all the path you have.
So I'm originally Indonesian. I moved quite a lot when I was a kid. I was, in terms of like cities and also like countries. So my father is an economist.
Okay.
My younger brother is an economist. My sister is thankfully not an economist. She's in a much better place.
Yeah.
But basically, I started my primary school in Indonesia, and I just started my undergrad in Indonesia. It was quite interesting the reason why I got into economics. I never really knew what my father was doing. I was just like, okay, he's a researcher, but I didn't really know what he was doing. And then, but most of my families are like doctors. So my parents really wanted me to be a doctor and be in med school. And then my parents were like, okay, I have a friend who's a professor in this certain like X university. Maybe you should talk to him about career plan and medicine, whether you're going to enjoy it or not. And when I kind of met the family, the father is an economist and the daughter is a doctor. I conversed with both of them, and I ended up thinking that the conversation with the economist was more interesting to me, and kind of like caught my attention more. And then I just applied to economics. My parents did the same strategy to my sister and my brother, and none of them ended up becoming a doctor. So they just had to try one, and we were like, no.
And now for the people that are dreaming to come here to Oxford, what would be your piece of advice for those kind of persons?
That's very difficult. That's very difficult. I think a lot of people ask me a lot on my DM as well, like what are the tips? And I cannot say, like, I think there's just no one size fits all kind of advice, because people are different. Like people are born in different environment, people are from different communities, people have different preferences, they have different hobbies. There are a lot of like these differences that shape you into who you are, and I don't think going to Oxford is the end goal in life, obviously, right? I think, again, people are different. Everyone has different goals, everyone has different manifestation of what they want to do in life, and that's completely fine. I think my only piece of advice really is to just be confident and internally strong and be your own biggest supporter, and don't be sad, don't like be discouraged or demotivated when you fail 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times. Like, it's completely okay. Like, it's just a process of life. I think if you internalize this failure and think about it too much and overthinking these things, and kind of, you know, incorporating a lot of your self-worth into these achievements, it will not get you anywhere, because you will just end up in a, you know, loop of just depressive episodes. I think having a thick skin, and just, you know, having this, I think perseverance and thick skin are the most important thing in academic journey, and that has gotten me this far, and in life in general. Being able to rely a lot on yourself and having that confidence that you will make it at the end, even though the journey is bumpy and uncertain, is what you constantly need to think about in life. I'm not the smartest person. I don't have the best standardized exam scores or whatever. I don't have the most. I'm not like a top performer where I was in master. I had experienced so many failures, and I think the reason that I'm here is precisely because of that. Because my supervisors see that I have the grit and perseverance, and that's what's important during your PhD.
That's very, very, very good advice. That I cannot comment.
You agree with me, right? Like, I think that's the most important thing during PhD is perseverance.
I actually think so, and I think the people that are here share that value.
Yeah.
So we are so different, each of us, but all the people that are here have embraced failure.
Yeah.
I think failure is a learning. It's not something bad. At least for the Hispanic communities, failure is so a very bad thing. It's stigmatized. So if you fail, you are not doing something right. While I think, at least in America or other countries, they have failure as a good thing. Like, look at how I was failing, look at how bad I was, and look at where I am now. Like, that's like proud. And it's like a learning. In Spain or other Hispanic countries, failure is not good. You know?
I get what you mean.
It's like punished somehow. And I think the change of mentality is what makes you to succeed, actually, because you learn from the failure. You want to fail fast and cheap. And then learn and apply the knowledge to get the things you want.
Exactly. That's very important as well. Like, you just don't keep trying and not see the pattern of it, but you have to learn from your failure and what you can do better in each next time.
It's human, of course. And also, like, try to like disconnect emotionally from failure.
Exactly.
To be able to continue working on it and surround yourself by people that loves you and you love them.
Yeah, exactly.
And everything will be great.
Yeah, for sure.
I also saw in your Instagram that you said that you had more than 25 rejections. How's specifically your mindset through that process? Because you have to apply again, but you are getting a rejection. And how is that mindset?
So I think I've always been kind of like conditioned to just apply to a lot of things. It's not my first time getting a lot of rejection. Initially, when I was like doing my master, it was quite hard because I came as like a valedictorian, like best graduate in undergrad. So everything comes very easily for me. Like, especially for the master, I got accepted to a lot of like good places. But then, you know, after I moved to Paris, I think it was really difficult to be like the top student in Paris. So I was failing a lot, and that really shaped the way I view things and really try to disentangle or separate myself and my self-worth with my academic achievement. And I think my Paris experience was able to help me go through that. And so when I applied to pre-doc as well, I faced like 15 rejections, a lot of like almost from like Harvard, Berkeley, and these schools. Initially, of course, I was like upset, but then later on, I kind of like get used to it. And so that's also like the mentality that I applied to when I was applying for PhD. I think like just diversifying your bucket of options, and then diversifying your risk, applying to a lot of schools will just do more good than harm. And that mindset of separating your self-worth with your academic achievement and rejection really helped me a lot to get through those like tough moments. Then I did my Bachelor in Economics. Starting from the first year, I've always liked it. I enjoy being in class. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy talking to my professors. And then I think my professors quite understand and know that I'm very passionate in research and economics. So they started offering kind of like teaching, research since like second year. So I've been doing like a lot of research with my professors in undergrad, and I think that's why I think my home university holds a lot of like an important place in my heart, because that was kind of like the first place and opportunities where they're really like pushing me to do research, and they really see, you know, the fiery eyes and also like passion in my life for research. And I think that has shaped a lot of the way I think about like resilient grit and also my love for research. And so I think right after that, it was just kind of everything comes natural to me. Of course, like I did apply to a lot of like master program. Initially, I was very convinced to go to the US. I got into Cornell. I really wanted to go because Cornell had a really good development economics program. But really last minute that I got to Paris, I got into Paris, and Paris School of Economics is one of the best schools in economics, I think, in the world and in Europe especially. And I got full scholarship from the French government.
That's
So I just, okay, this seems to be like a very great opportunity, and there are a lot of like really cool people that are working on development topics in Paris. So I didn't speak the language. I didn't really have enough time to even try to learn the language. It was a very last minute decision that I went to Paris.
Okay.
And it was the best decision that I think I could have ever taken.
Impostor syndrome
Yeah.
is one of the words I've been hearing the most while my time in both Cambridge and Oxford. What are your thoughts about it?
I think it's very humane, and also it's very natural to kind of like when you're surrounded with, you know, best of the best people, you would feel kind of like insecure and you're not really like confident, or you don't really see a lot of like value in yourself. But I think everyone is experiencing the same thing as you are, you know what I mean? And if they're and I think there are a lot of like good and nice people that you can kind of like talk to as well, and are just very motivational and that you can learn from, instead of just being like, you know, insecure or not. And I do feel like in terms of like, especially in my research, the more you talk to people and the more you pitch your idea, like no matter how small it is, the more it would grow into something bigger and it was something meaningful. So I always really try to think that I am confident in my idea, and when that's the way I kind of like just frame thing. And I personally, I actually never feel like that. I mean, when I was in Paris, of course, because like I think the distinction between if you're smart or not is very clear, because there is like certain proxies that can define your ability, right? Like test score, even though that's not really supposed to be the only thing, but you can't help but compare yourself, and the comparison are very distinct. So if you are kind of like in the lower percentile, you would kind of be much more insecure to talk to the people that are like top 1% of the performer, for example. But I think when you're doing a PhD, it's completely different, because everyone is doing something completely different and you're just doing your own thing. And so I just don't really feel like I have imposter syndrome. Like I talk a lot with my friends that are doing econ. I talk a lot with my friends that are doing like public policy here as well. And I also talk to a lot of people that are doing like even professors. I talked to a lot of my professors that I've worked with in the past and my professors here, and they're all very, very nice and very supportive. Of course, not everyone will like your idea, but that's kind of just how things are and how life is, so I don't really mind.
You mentioned about the pre-doc. I think that's something very interesting that you did. Can you share about that a bit?
Yeah, so a lot of people in my Instagram also ask me a lot about pre-doc, because pre-doc is kind of like a new thing that has not really, I don't know about like how it is in the like in medicine or like in science or math, but basically like in social science, especially like in economics, it's kind of like a new concept that starts to be introduced maybe like 5 to 6 years ago. Initially, like, you know, the usual route is doing your undergrad, master, and then PhD, but because more and more, I think the field is getting more and more competitive. Economics and public policy and like related field like international development. Now the usual pattern is like undergrad, master, pre-doc, PhD, postdoc, tenure track. So pre-doc is kind of like a 1 to 2 years research assistantship, but you're like, for example, it's like the same as you, like you're in a lab, you're working on multiple different projects during the 1 or 2 years, and you're designing an experiment depending on like what you're working on, but you're basically involved in different stages of research. You're designing an experiment, you're conducting literature review, you're doing the IRB process, you're analyzing the data, you go on the field. I was in Tanzania for several months to do my field experiment. So pre-doc is really similar to RA-ship, but it's just that I guess it's more full experience and more comprehensive experience. And I think it's a very good opportunity for you to understand more what you're getting yourself into during the 4 or 5 years of PhD. So it has helped me a lot in trying to frame my mindset on what to expect during my PhD, and whether you would like it or not. That was fun.
Very interesting. Was it in Norway?
It was in Norway.
Can you also share the experience you had regarding rejection with that?
So I did apply to like 15 positions, both like RA-ship and also like pre-docs in different schools. Initially, I was thinking to go more to the US. I had been shortlisted several times, and you know, in the last stage of interview in schools like Northwestern, Chicago. So I was very sad that I didn't get these schools, Harvard as well. But then, you know, I was like thinking maybe it's just like kind of like God's plan to not send me to the US. And so then when I think even when I got Norway, it was interesting because during the interview, the professor was like, I think you're overqualified for the position. You should directly go to PhD because like you have a clear research proposal and stuff. Like, why are you doing a pre-doc? But then I was really thinking that if I want to get into like a top school, I would need to boost my application process, and pre-doc would kind of like help me a lot.
Okay.
And not just having a year to think about my research specialty and the specific research question that I want to do during my PhD. So yeah.
That's right. Oxford is full of very smart and intelligent people. First of all, congrats in your scholarship because it's one of the most renowned ones in Oxford, Clarendon scholarship. How was the process for applying for you?
So for the process, I think for Oxford, especially for DPhil students, is that you just have to submit the early application deadline because there are two application deadlines, right? The first one is the one in, I think, end of December is the deadline, and the second one is the later ones, like February or something.
Yeah.
And so do apply to the first batch, which is like the early, at the end of December, because then you will automatically be considered for all of the applications for scholarship that are available in Oxford. So like Oxford, like Clarendon, Jardine, and Hoffman scholarship, but basically every scholarship that Oxford has. And I think Oxford has around like 100 scholarships for international students.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the most important advice would be to make sure that you apply to the earlier deadlines one, not the later deadlines, to be able to consider automatically. And I did not have to submit any additional kind of like application. Yeah, it's really just they give me admission letter, and then a month after they found a scholarship for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is very interesting.
Of course, I'm a very hardworking person as well. But when I was in Paris, it seems like everyone has a completely different baseline. French people are so smart in math. And they're usually like people that does engineering before, you know, or they did like pure math. So proofing and then like dynamic optimization and stuff comes very easy and natural for them. Meanwhile, for me, these are things that I've never learned in Bachelor. Yeah. And I did take like a 3 months math like courses, but it's just not enough. It was not enough. First year was horrible. I was like, for the first time ever in my life, I was struggling a lot with my academic performance. So
yeah, it's a new country, new continent, new language, and
exactly. So it's like triple burden for me, right? Because it was like completely new environment. I didn't know what I had to do. I was struggling, and the only thing I thought I was good at, which is my academic achievement. So I felt a lot of the experience was really more on making me as a tougher person. Yeah. And really, and initially after my first year, I was like, you know what? I was telling my parents every day, I hated this place. I want to move so bad to the US. I hate I hate everything about this place. Like, I want to move. I mean, my friends are amazing, to be honest. They become like lifelong friends because we had like 1 year trauma experience together. But I didn't really like the school. I wanted to move so bad. But my parents were like, you know, keep pushing. Like, if at the end of the day you didn't end up like making it or you didn't pass, like, okay, it's fine. Like, you can move. Yeah. But then I always feel like, you know what, like the most important thing is that I will always keep trying no matter what the result would be. I don't want to give up in the middle. But yeah, the experience really helped me a lot in defining who I am as a person without all of this academic achievement. Yeah. And just being strong and confident in myself. So kind of like the confidence have to come within yourself, like internally, not because like people think you're smart or you know, you need external validation, validation externally from other people that you need this. I no longer feel like I don't need any of that, and no matter what I think this is a very important lesson. No matter what people think about me or say about me, I don't care, genuinely. Like, you can say I'm like the meanest person or like I have like the most ill intention or whatever, like on social media. People can just like give like the very rude, mean comments to me. Like, it does not affect me. Like, okay, maybe I would be sad for like 1 minute, then that would be like...
It also depends on the person that says that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, like, I think as long as it's people that I care about and people that knows me, I don't think they think I'm a bad person, hopefully. Yeah. So I think that's fine, you know. The rest is just like, whatever. Like, I think that's also, it comes like as a risk of being in social media as well. Like, you would get bash here and there sometimes, and that's kind of like, it's whatever. It's kind of like the risk. But like, basically, I think that's why I handled rejection so well during my PhD application, pre-doc application, because of this first year in Paris that have really molded and shaped me into being just knowing who I am as a person.
Have you ever feel enough pressure in order to think that you want a kid?
I want a kid?
Yeah.
No. I do not have any pressure.
That's right.
Yeah, that I want to have kids, but I think I'm quite.
No, sorry.
Oh, quit. I thought kid. I was like, what, kid?
No,
quit.
quit.
I
Yeah.
see. I was like, okay.
My accent, sorry.
No, it's fine.
thought
I
it was a
just like,
kid. Oh.
I was like, it's fine.
No. Like enough pressure
I
to
see.
feel that you wanna quit.
Not now. No, I haven't really felt any. A lot of times I'm quite overwhelmed. Like yesterday I was also quite overwhelmed, but then I just talked to my family about it. I talked to my boyfriend about it. You know, like it's just
Yeah.
a very difficult. It's just a very difficult and intense kind of like period of life, and you know we only have 3 or 4 years. That's like nothing compared to US graduates. So you feel the constant need to kind of like rush and also like make something that is good enough or at least on par of like these US graduates, but given such a short amount of time and like funding, etc. So
Yeah.
I think it's tough, like it's difficult. Like now I have 3 different projects and I'm trying to
Yeah.
like juggle that, and then like
Yeah.
part-time content creation. I'm also teaching, and then I'm doing a lot of things all the time, you know. That's
Yeah.
why I've been like really focused here to set things up for like the next years. But yeah, most days I feel overwhelmed, but you know, in good days like today, I
Yeah.
feel very like optimistic
Right.
and very like yeah, I actually like this. I really like research, and my supervisors have been like really supportive, and they're really they're very smart. They're very
That's right.
they're very supportive. They're very smart, so they really give me and push me and thinking more of like the big ideas and thinking outside the box, and talking with them has really helped me a lot
That's so
in
nice.
framing my research idea. Norway was like really nice for me, but like most of the rejection is like, you know, getting rejected for PhD application when I was doing a pre-doc in Norway. So
Okay, that's been interesting because you were getting more experience for
Yeah.
applying to better unis or
Yeah.
like top unis, and at
Yeah.
the same time you were using that time to apply for those unis.
yeah, I applied to so many universities. I think I had like a bunch of lists from, you know, like I applied to, but mostly Europe, because I knew
Yeah.
that at that time I didn't want to move to the US.
Yeah.
I did only apply to like Cornell, I think, in the US,
Hmm.
just because I think for, I don't know, it's just for the vibe.
Yeah.
But most universities that I applied to are like in the UK, like Oxford, Cambridge, LSE, UCL, Warwick,
Hmm. Yeah.
like all econ department. I did apply for Paris PSE, like Paris School of Economics. So
Yeah.
it was like a place where I did my master. And then I did apply to a lot of places in Scandinavian countries, like Stockholm University. I did
Oh,
apply
yeah.
to Zurich as well, Stockholm School of Economics, and a lot of places in Ireland as well. Like there's Trinity College Dublin, which is
Yeah.
quite good for what I want to do, and then Bocconi, like Italy.
Oh, yeah.
I did apply to a lot of places. I think I also did apply to like a lot of some other places in Spain, like Semfi.
Oh,
and
really?
then- yeah.
Okay.
And then I also applied to European EUYs in Italy.
Yeah.
Basically, I applied to, I think, like all universities that you can think of that does
Yeah.
economics and public policy in Europe, and also one in the US.
Okay.
So,
And
yeah.
how was that process? How was the outcome? How was your mentality during that application process?
I think initially it was quite difficult because I was working as well, but you know, in pre-doc, especially like my supervisors and my professors are very supportive.
Yeah.
So they were really like just telling me that it's fine if you want to work less this week to prepare for your PhD. So they really understand, because one of the main kind of like objective of doing a pre-doc is to get into a good PhD program.
Yeah.
So my supervisor were very, very supportive in supporting my applications. They were telling me to talk to certain people, giving me letter of recommendation. So
It is a job itself to apply.
exactly, it is a full-time job itself
Yeah.
to apply. And then on top of that, you have a job yourself, right? And
It's
you
the
have
most
to go
stressful life. Yeah.
exactly, and you have to go back and forth for the interview. So
Yeah.
I was quite like, I was quite discouraged as well in
Yeah.
the beginning, because you know, left and right. So there were like four pre-docs in Norway. All of
Yeah.
them are my close friends, and they already get like acceptance letter from
Yeah.
all these like good schools. And I'm like, oh my god, like when is it my turn? I was panicking because they got like acceptance letter from the US, because US admission
early.
are very early.
Yeah.
So you will get like a news like around this time.
Yeah.
But around this time, you just started interviewing from Oxford.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know that I would get into Oxford. Actually, I was a bit like gambling. So I was very happy when I got.
Do you have
the,
like a priority list of like top? Do you have like a ranking?
No. I was really like convinced that I was going to go to like I was going to continue in Scandinavian countries.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I did like living in Scandinavia. I think, and then like they pay really well as a PhD
Yeah.
student. They have
Yeah.
a lot of like research funding. So I was like, okay, I'm
Work-life balance as well.
exactly. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm just gonna chill here
Yeah.
in Scandinavia. But then you know, the world wants
Yeah.
me, because I'm relatively a quite ambitious person, and so I was like thinking maybe this would kind of like tone down my I would just be more chill, you know,
Yeah.
a bit more chill and much more interested in other things.
Your
It's just-
comfort zone,
Yeah, and my academic stuff. But yeah, I guess the world just wants to keep pushing me.
Yeah.
But then I was very happy that I got Oxford because I did like a 3-month summer research assistantship in Oxford, in Blavatnik. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm quite
Where
familiar.
you are now.
Yeah, where I am now. So I think it was very interesting because when I was doing my summer RA-ship, my dad was also there to attend a conference. We were just walking around Oxford and we were just seeing like students in like formal gowns.
Yeah.
I think they were going to formal dinners or something. And then my dad was like, "Oh, do you want to go to Oxford?" And I was like, maybe in another life, because at that point I have almost finished my degree in Paris.
Your master's.
Yeah, my master, and I thought that like I would either stay there or stay other places. So I didn't really think that I was going to ever even apply to Oxford. So it was just a funny coincidence, because I'm quite familiar with Oxford and Blavatnik specifically.
Yeah.
So when I got the offer, it just seems like it's meant to be kind of thing.
Actually, my story is kind of similar to yours, and I always get this question like, PhD is more stressful or less than the masters, and I actually think PhD is a better life because you have to research, of course, but in the masters as well. But during the masters, you have to figure out what to do the year after. So it's like 2 years at the same time.
Exactly.
But I did a 2 years master program. So my second year was last year in Cambridge. So I was basically doing exactly the same. It was not a predoc because it was part of my master's.
Yeah.
But I was also like doing research and at the same time applying for unis and super stressful.
Yeah.
Now even more that the funding is such complicated for especially Europeans after Brexit. But yeah, it's
it's a lot of things. I feel like being a PhD student is not just about like your research, but you're also like you have to find funding, you have to submit for IRB ethics, etc. On top of that, to be able to live, you need some additional income from teaching assistantship. It's a lot. It's a lot of things. Like I don't know, like it's a busy life, but I like it. I think it's just like when it's kind of like meant for you. And I've always been in academia. I've never worked outside of academia. So being here and doing the research that I like is just what I'm passionate about. So it's very busy. Sometimes I do feel overwhelmed, quite a lot of times actually, but most of the times I do feel like I wouldn't really have it any other way. Like this is just what I'm called for. So.
That is right.
Yeah.
That was actually the next question. Is it worthy or not?
It is.
I wanted to ask about this because one guy in my lab, he's with Clarendon as well.
I see.
And I think it's a very interesting scholarship because you properly have a community. It's not just a scholarship that they give you money, you do your PhD and that's out. They actually have so many interesting things that you do as a community.
That is true. No, I completely agree. I have met like my closest friends here from Clarendon because we have a lot of like events. Like we have like a lot of like dinner events, and we also have. I think they also have conference with Gates Scholarship.
Yeah, it's the same as the Gates in Cambridge.
I see. Yeah, so we have a combined conference with the Gates Cambridge people.
That is so cool.
That is which I think is really cool because then as a PhD student you can meet kind of like fellow PhD students from other universities and just discussing an interdisciplinary idea. So that's what I like about Clarendon. And
si como a Jesita te gustaría conseguir una de estas increíbles becas para estudiar en la Universidad de Oxford o en la Universidad de Cambridge, ve a la descripción y rellena el formulario para acceder a mi nuevo servicio de asesorías. Allí te ayudaré a aplicar y conseguir una de estas increíbles becas para estudiar completamente becado al 100% para estudiar en la Universidad de tus sueños. En la descripción. Y sin más preámbulos, sigamos con el vídeo.
In Cambridge, I know for the Gates Cambridge, they have a proper building in which they can socialize, and it's only for people that have the Gates Cambridge, which is the most prestigious scholarship in Cambridge from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And it's so cool because the learning process, the learning experience is much more enriching, but also you meet so many interesting people in all over the disciplines. So that's super cool.
Exactly. No, I feel like also the foundation of a good research is being able to talk to different people in different kind of like settings and also like in different fields about your idea and being able to kind of like articulate it and explain it to them. And learning from some mechanism in their field that can be useful for you. I think that's why I choose a policy school instead of like being in the econ department because my type of research is quite interdisciplinary. So I do use a lot of insights from like psychology. So it's very nice because you talk to a lot of people that are also doing cool things as well in Oxford.
Yeah, I don't know exactly about the Clarendon, but I know that the Gates Cambridge like to finance some projects that are very original, very innovative, that are gonna change the world. This kind of projects.
okay.
So the people you meet is actually very, very, very interesting. They are working in different fields, but in specific topics that are super, super cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, no, that's very cool.
Regarding this, which other things from your
Yeah.
past do we have to understand in order to see the person that we are facing today?
I think also during my time in Paris, I think personally I used to be quite like a very, I don't know, detached person. I would say like I am always able to kind of I don't know, like have like my entire life is really just about like my career, my academic achievement. I never really care about like any other things that much. But then I think my experience in Paris and then being in a very like low position in your life, you cannot really rely on anyone but like other people as well that cares about you. So that was kind of like the period where I really think that I understand the value of people around me and how much they have helped me grow into the person that I am today. And just really be thankful of, you know, having such a extremely like positive peers and a like partner, family and stuff. It's just a very important kind of things in life. I think at the end of the day, life is good and life is nice when you really have people that you care about around you, and they really uphold you, strengthen you, they serve as an anchor in your life. So that's kind of what I learned as well in trying to like invest in good people around you and also spend some time with them, because life is not just about your academic achievement. And you can achieve all these great things but be like the not nicest person in the world, and I don't ever want to be that person, you know. So I think being a good person is more important.
I don't know about what you think about this, but I feel a PhD is a very good idea and a very good investment of time, even if you are not academic. Because I don't know what you think about yourself, but I don't really classify myself as an academic. I'm actually more like entrepreneurial, but I love research. And in this part of my life, I want to do research because I want to develop technology for then translating to the clinics for helping people. I don't know about you. Do you feel yourself you're like an academic? Do you think PhD is just for academics?
That's a very interesting question, and I think it's really cool that you're doing kind of evidence-based entrepreneurship. You know, like you want backed up evidence to be able to kind of like inform your decision for your business and stuff. I think that's really cool, and I think that's where the world is not really going, but should be going. I have always considered myself my entire life to want to stay in academia because I really like teaching. I really genuinely like being in the university. But I do know that like the current market is very hard to penetrate. It's very competitive, and there's a lot of uncertainty that comes with being in academia. You know, like in terms of pay, in terms of it's like just it's never-ending process. Like after you have to do a postdoc, after postdoc, also with kind of like average or even like low pay, and then I have to be like tenure track, and there's a lot of uncertainty because like. It depends on your personal life as well. Like, where do you want to end up moving? Where do you want to end up settling at the end of the day? How's your personal relationship? So a lot of the uncertainty is difficult actually, because you keep kind of like losing track of where you're gonna stay next year, and how is your research going next year? Whether it's gonna fail, whether it's not gonna fail. I am kind of like much more open now to exploring different career. Outside of academia, such as like international development. I've been recently quite interested in like international organization, like going to the World Bank or Asian Development Bank or these types of institutions. And because most of my research now are actually about like social media and gender, I've been quite interested in going into tech. But you know, like a research in tech, like maybe, for example, like postdoc position in Microsoft, or that would be like really cool. But I don't know. I think I always have this idea that I would be happier with much more stable pay, being in these types of more stable environment. But I think academia gives me some satisfaction that cannot really be fulfilled with any other jobs.
And it also has so many good things, like the freedom you have. Like we are filming this now on a Thursday at 12:51. Who can do that? Like who can actually in a job, in a real world job, can do that?
Yeah. That's also another thing. Like I am very much not a 9. I mean, we work more than 9 to 5 sometimes.
Exactly. Like,
we're very like it's up to us what we're gonna do.
You work more than 8 hours per day,
Yeah.
but you can decide when.
Exactly, like you can just take Monday off and then work on Saturdays. Really,
Yeah.
like I think the flexibility is very important, and also the freedom of like research.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of like just the peak advantage of being in academia.
Do you think the Oxford ecosystem helps into this stressful world? Because we are in a city in which everyone is the top in the top.
Yeah.
We are all of us very overachievers.
Yeah.
There is an over competition as well. Do you think in that way that's helping? And also, do you think that mechanism, that is pressure, makes diamonds or makes people be burned out?
I think it really depends on how you see things. I think Oxford is, I mean, as far as support, I think Oxford is a place for a lot of like really cool and smart people.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I compare it to PhD as well, for example, it's also very smart, very, very smart and ambitious people. But I think it's just like different type of support that you kind of like get. I feel like people are much nicer here, and people, maybe because I didn't speak the language, you know, but I really feel much more supported in terms of like community. I think professors wise, both places are amazing. They have like the most amazing supportive professors. I love my supervisors in Paris as well. They're really like but all of my supervisors are like female, except like my current PhD supervisor, but they're all like my girl crush, you know. They're like what I want to be as a person and as a researcher. So I really, really like my supervisor in PSE as well. But I think in terms of community, it's much more like well knitted, and people are I think it's because there's much more people here than people that I kind of like was able to talk to when I was in Paris. So it's much more of a supportive environment, and I think you invest much more time because you know you're going to stay for a longer time. Then my master was only 2 years, so I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna leave after this anyway. But I do agree that there are kind of like two potential outcomes with being in these very like high level, high energy, high ambition kind of like ecosystem. The first one is that you may burn out, and then but like the second one is that you may actually turn into diamond. I think it depends on how you perceive these pressure and how you internalize this pressure as kind of like whether you see it more as a threat or more as like a support, you know. Like for me, I think it has helped me a lot, the support that people at Oxford and also my professors have given me to just think more, think bigger, and just to keep doing my research, even though like the progresses are small, but at least if you keep trying, you keep showing up, it's going to end up like amazing and good. So I don't really think that, but I do understand that, you know, you tend to always compare yourself with other people. Maybe I haven't really felt the pressure because we're still in our first year.
That's probably the worst thing, to compare with other people.
Yeah.
Each project is different, each person is different.
Exactly, and you cannot really compare with people that are like in their fourth year of their TPhil, you know, like they are.
Also, they only present the good things, the good data.
Exactly.
They don't present the rest. So
Exactly.
you can't compare.
Exactly. So I think it really depends on the way you frame things. I think we will experience both. We will experience a season of burnout.
It's a roller coaster.
Exactly, it's going to be a roller coaster. Like some days are going to be amazing, some days are going to be like super burnt out. Like for example, yesterday I was quite burnt out because I just had finished like 3 days conferences, and I had to submit another like final piece for one of my other projects. So I just felt like there's just so many things going on, and then I have personal things going on as well. So it was just like so many things going on at the same time. But then, you know, you really have to be able to have a good self-control and giving yourself grace in these tough periods and knowing when to stop. I think that's very, very important. Like
when to rest.
Like how much more do you want to push yourself? Like it's always good to push yourself, but you have a limit, and you have to be humble enough to understand your personal limit and your personal boundaries, and do not push more than that because you're not gonna get far with that. And I think it's self-control is very important.
To learn about yourself and about how stress manifests. In my case, it's physical, for example. I start feeling it. So I said like, okay, I have to slow down now, have a rest, and tomorrow I will be more productive, because if I continue, I will burn out, and it's over.
Exactly. Me as well. I think on days where I feel really like exhausted, I really just, so ever since I started my TPhil, I started going to boxing classes.
Oh, that's cool.
I think it's really nice because like when you do boxing or when you do other types of sport that really teaches you to focus on that one thing and not think about anything else. You just, like finally 1 or 2 hours of just not thinking about work. Like it's so refreshing. You would end up feeling much more fresh. And I think understanding when to stop is very important. I think that's what I'm trying to push myself to do.
And actually Oxford is perfect for that, because it's a small city, community is huge, like you have so many people around you. It's beautiful, it's green, you can go with the bike, you can do sport, there are so many things going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
So you can actually do it.
Exactly. And it's like a student environment, right? A lot of the events are student led. You cannot exhaust on things to do in Oxford, so that's really good. And you have a lot of like different communities. And if you're really just bored, you can always go to London. It's not that far.
It's an hour. It's great.
Yeah, it's great. I like it. I think it's a very nice place to do your PhD.
Indeed, I cannot be more into an agreement.
Exactly. I've always teach my entire life. During my undergrad, I've taught a lot of classes. In my master, I was also teaching. Now I'm also teaching. I always maybe I see myself and I'm projecting myself as like I always learn the most when I'm in the classroom.
Yeah.
I completely love my interaction with my professors just since undergrad. So being able to see like, the twinkle and like stars in the eyes of the students are like, oh, these are very helpful, really means a lot to me.
Yeah.
Even though on average people don't really care, like they just want to like, that certification degree and then like leave. But nurturing these like minds of young researchers or potential or like aspiring researchers and making research more accessible to people.
Yeah.
I think that yields a lot of non-monetary value that is higher than anything else in my opinion.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
It was great to have you in the channel. I think it has been so useful for so many people to learn about your story.
Yeah.
You can follow her on Instagram. Details will be in the description. And I don't know if you want to share anything else.
No, I think that's it. You can follow me on Instagram if you want to ask me anything, or just follow my day in the life content as a PhD student here at Oxford, or his Instagram as well, to see more of his day in the life. That's it. It was really nice.
It was great to have you in the channel.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
See you.
See you.